Hi guys, welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today is going to be episode 179 with my good friend Cody Nelson over at the Outdoorsmans in Phoenix. I want to remind you guys that you can use the J. Scott promo code and get 10% off all products over there at the Outdoorsmans. Also, it's going to be a great episode. I want to remind you that the GoHunt.com Insider giveaway for the Insider members this month is 10 Kuiu sleeping bags. If you're one of the 10 winners, you can pick which degree sleeping bag you want. So that's a great giveaway by GoHunt.com Insider. And can't wait for you guys to hear this episode with Cody Nelson talking about tripods. And very shortly, we're going to have another episode on tripod heads and bino adapter accessories. So make sure to get your 10% discount over at the Outdoorsmans. Also, they're giving a big gear giveaway. There's 3 amazing packages that you can win. And you can go to their Facebook page or their Instagram page in order to sign up to be entered. And they're giving away some great stuff, including a tripod, adapter, and a head of your choice. I believe a backpack and an optic, a rifle Swarovski X5 rifle scope. So go to the Outdoorsman's Facebook page or the Outdoorsman's Instagram to sign up for that great 3-package giveaway. Guys, I want to thank you for your support. As always, you can send me questions at jscottoutdoors@gmail.com. Also, don't forget to check out my new website, jscottoutdoors.com. Let's get right to this episode. Guys, the title sponsor of my podcast is GoHunt.com Insider, and they're doing a 30-day free trial exclusive for the J. Scott Outdoors podcast listeners. Go to GoHunt.com/JScott and click on the blue free trial button and go through the steps. It only takes a couple of minutes. You will be required to provide a credit card, but you will not be charged until after the free 30 days. You can cancel at any time within the first 30 days to prevent being charged. If you have any questions at all, you can email freetrial@gohunt.com and someone from the GoHunt team will promptly respond. This is your opportunity to see what all the buzz is about and the Filtering 2.0 system and the application strategies for the Western hunter. Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today we've got a good friend of the podcast, Cody Nelson, the owner, co-owner of the Outdoorsmans. How you doing?
I'm doing good, bud. Good to be on. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I always get such great feedback when you're on, Cody. And today we're going to talk about tripods and all the ins and outs of tripods and what makes a good tripod and why they're important and all the different mounting accessories that you guys offer. And before we get to that, though, I know you've got a archery elk hunt staring you right here in the face about a month away. Just curious your thoughts on conditions and how you see this hunt going down.
Well, God, I think we are under 30 days now, and I'm most excited, and I want to get started right away. Is actually what I really want to do. But I can't leave work, so that work thing gets in the way. But they had a big fire up in the area, and it certainly wasn't the whole range that we're hunting in. But I think they've been getting plenty of monsoon moisture. I haven't been out as much as I'd like to be, but bottom line is that I'm looking forward to it. I think the conditions are good, and I think it's going to be a really good September is what I really think. I think it's going to be outstanding.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited. I've got my beaver elk hunt in Utah, and then I've got a hunter over in 23 South in Arizona, and just excited to get in that unit. And you and I will probably be bumping into each other. But
It's kind of like he says in the movie Days of Thunder, rubbin's racing, Jay. Rubbin's racing.
I love it. That unit is an interesting unit because the elk are very spread out. They're very pockety. There are some big bulls, but it's definitely a unique unit compared to other units in Arizona. It really kind of stands alone in my mind as, definitely a very difficult unit to hunt, to get around. Access can be tough at times. And, but I think that's what makes, a few good bulls around every year.
Well, I think it definitely makes it interesting. And I think, what have we got? 15 hunters in the unit. And it's a large, 23 South is a large unit for 15 guys. And I think just the typical nature of that hunt is that the elk are pretty spread out. And I think it makes for a real good hunt, in terms of, I don't think you have to have everybody crawling on top of each other, around every single corner.
Yeah, for sure. And, it's one of those things with the early dates starting on the 9th of September. I think every day of the hunt that goes by, it will just get better and better and better. The last 5 or 6 days of that hunt probably will be the best days as far as bugling and action of the whole season. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. We've got a full moon on the 18th. So that's going to create, in my mind, a lot of during the dark, during the night activity. It's going to be interesting how quickly they go to their beds, and there's probably going to be times when there's short windows to actually get at them. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out for sure.
Yeah, that's always that's the full moon. Never really. I don't like the full moon, but at the same time, if they're rutting and it keeps them active, I've also seen those mornings, or they start early in the evening too. So I don't know. I love going out there and chasing bugles and kind of seeing what nature's going to throw at us, because you just don't know until you're there. And I'd rather be there doing it than talk about it. I can sure as heck tell you that.
Yeah, I can. I'm just hoping I minimize my black rattlesnakes seem to have an attraction to me. And I'm hoping to keep my black rattlesnake encounters to about 5 this year.
I was going to tell you, I'm pretty sure that of the one or couple, the 3 different years we've been there, I'm pretty sure that you're the black snake, the black snake magnet, because nobody else seems to get around them except for you.
Yeah, they tend to like me a lot, and so I'm hoping that I can skirt around them this year, and they're aggressive little suckers.
Between that and Unit 10, I haven't seen a rattlesnake, but maybe a dozen times in Unit 10, and all of them have been with you.
Yeah, I'm kind of a magnet. I should be a snake wrangler.
Exactly. You go to Texas and get in those snake pits.
For sure.
So,
Cody, today I want to talk about tripods, and the Outdoorsmans for years has been the authority on optics, and really was the first, in my mind, the first company to come forward and really make tripods an important item, and really, in my mind, for Western hunting, put tripods on the map as far as why it's so important to use a tripod while glassing. And I know we've talked about glassing on several of our episodes, and I get such great feedback on these episodes. But I want to talk today about tripods, and first and foremost, in your mind, what makes a good tripod?
Well, Jay, and I, in any of the seminars that I've taught and, little educational things that we do, I think it should be first noted that any tripod is better than no tripod. And I know we've talked about that in the glassing, and we don't have to cover all of the glassing, again today, but I think that there's a number of people out there, And we get the calls literally on a daily basis that they want to buy optics, but then when you ask them, hey, are you going to be mounting these to a tripod? And I still, it puzzles me to this day that you still get that answer of, well, why would you do that? And so, it really gives me a chance to talk to people and understand what kind of hunting they're doing and where they're at and where they're going, and how, are they successful, are they not? And I also can't tell you that once we've had those conversations, and then we give people the chance to go, do stuff on a tripod, the number of calls that we get coming back to us saying that hunting from, a tripod or glassing from a tripod, it literally changed their experience for the better. And yeah, sometimes you have to be more patient and do all that other stuff, but just the simple thought of putting your optics on a tripod, literally for a large part of the country, they think it's a waste of time and just another piece of gear that they have to carry. But there's times when I got to be honest with you, I think I'd rather forget my gun than my tripod.
It's definitely one of those things that, if you can't find the animals and we happen to live in a state of, Arizona where we have, trophy animals, and, trying to, one, pick them out on a hillside in the brush, when we're talking coos deer, mule deer, bears, elk, whatever, bighorn sheep, and then take it a step further and try and evaluate whether that's a mature animal that you want to go after. In my mind, a tripod makes all the difference in the world. And I'm with you. It's an essential part of gear that I always use, and very rarely ever go anywhere without my tripod.
Yeah.
It's just become, once I got turned on to it and started actually using a tripod pretty much on every hunt that I do, I don't leave home without it.
Yeah, to me it's like having tires on your truck. You gotta you gotta have the tires to go down the road. So I just figured that when I'm glassing, I gotta have the tripod, because it and if you've ever really want to do an experiment, go glass with a tripod for 2 or 3 days, and then one day not take it and just go out there and hand hold it, and you'll learn real quickly about just how valuable they are. I mean, I can't express that enough. So
yeah, and I think one of the things that a tripod does is it makes you slow down and it makes you more aware of what's going on. And I think if you did that experiment of, glass one full day with the tripod, go out the next day without a tripod, I think you're going to find that your attention span is way less. You're going to hand hold your binoculars, and, after maybe 15, 20 minutes, you're just kind of going to be like, all right, I only saw a few animals, but then you sit behind a tripod and sit comfortably. It's amazing how you can sit for hours and continue to pick apart the mountain and see different things that, guys sitting right next to you. I've had hunters where they're sitting right next to you, right next to me, and they're not seeing, I'm seeing 75% more than they are.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and Jay, the other thing that people forget about, and that I think is probably one of the most, to me, it's one of the best things about glassing with a tripod is we still have guys that call a shop, and they're talking about glassing, and you say, okay, well, what binoculars are you glassing with? And they'll say 15s, and you're like, well, are you on a tripod? What mount are you using now to put them on a tripod? And people will say, well, I just handhold them. And then you ask the question, hey, do you get eye fatigue at the end of the day? Do you have headaches? You start really kind of breaking down people what they're going through, and oh my goodness, people are, there's some people that are glassing, man, they're more hardcore than I am, because these guys are glassing, with 12s and 15s with no tripod, and they're talking about headaches and migraines and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, whoa, man, I mean, you might as well just hit yourself in the head with a ball-peen hammer.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's uncomfortable, and no wonder why they don't want to go sit in glass for a long period of time, because when you do that, the eye strain is unbelievable. The more times the steadier you can keep your glass, Jay, and really, we've talked about this before. It's an investment on your eyes, because the less your eye has to, let's put it this way, your eye's a muscle. And the more that your muscle keeps moving and contracting and focusing and refocusing, and the less your eye does that, the more focused you are literally on finding the animal. So if your muscle isn't working as hard and it's less strained, then you can do that for longer periods of time. So imagine if you could put a timer on that and figure out how your eye is steady and searching for game, as opposed to, constantly, moving, with the vibration of not having a tripod. If you could somehow put a timer on that, what would that mean to you? Would that be a couple hours, or would that be, like on a 10-day hunt? Would that be, I don't know, what would that mean to you? Would that be hours of time? Would it be a day of time? I mean, I think the number would actually, kind of surprise people about how much they're fidgeting with their eyes, and I got guys that bring Visine with them because they get so, irritated sometimes. But the tripod, I think, absolutely is the one factor that helps mitigate all those, problems. For sure.
Cody, in your mind, what makes a good tripod? Or basically start out for those people that, I mean, obviously the word tripod kind of gives it away, but maybe start at the basic and explain to the listener what is a tripod and what makes a good tripod.
Well, I think the thing that you want out of a tripod is you've got people that want ultralight stuff, you got people that want heavy stuff, and I would tell you that there is a place for all of that. If a person came into me right now and they said, look, I just want to get started and I want to do this, and I want to be successful, and I want a glass, and I'd like to be comfortable, I think, a mid-weight tripod, something that's steady. It doesn't have to be incredibly expensive. It doesn't have to be, I mean, you don't have to have a $700 or $800 tripod on every given, deal. But you got to have enough weight that it keeps the glass steady. But you don't want to haul around, feel like you're hauling a couple of lead weights with you either. So I think there's a balance there between, and this is just talking for the average guy that wants to start up with a tripod who's never really done this before. Personally, I like two-leg extensions. So you have a tripod, and then, like some guys want to stand versus sit. So, you want a tripod that will at least give you enough room to stand up. A lot of guys like to stand. A lot of guys have bad backs. So I like, for starters, I like to get a guy into a medium weight, tripod that will do a lot of different things for him. And then, and
just to be clear, Cody, for those listeners out there that don't use a tripod, in essence, a tripod will fork at the top, and it's got 3 legs. And then when Cody talks about multiple sections, correct me if I'm wrong, Cody, but each tripod leg will either be 1 full section, or it could be 2 sections, 3 sections.
Correct.
In other words, you can extend those legs out,
right,
so that the legs will become longer, where you could get one that you could sit behind. You could get one that you could extend out another section of the leg.
Correct.
And now you can stand behind. For those guys that are taller, you could also get a center post that's extended center post. So if you've got guys that are over 6 foot tall that could stand behind and glass.
Right.
So tripods come kind of in all shapes and sizes. There's ones with twist knobs, lever knobs, but what you're basically talking about is a mid-weight, kind of mid-level tripod. Would you recommend a stand behind tripod for everyone, or do you just say, nah, just get them sitting and glassing
that's
in a sitting position?
And Jay, the tripods, we could probably write a book on this one, but the issue is that let's talk about the leg extensions real quick, because we get that there's a lot of different the tripods that I've seen, of different manufacturers. I've seen as many as a 5-leg extension tripod. And what happens is that the longer, the more you go down the leg of the tripod, the more they get
more
thinner
flat
as they go in diameter. Okay.
Right.
So what happens is that when people start extending them down to those lower levels, okay, to make the tripod taller, the thing I have to warn people about is you're actually making the tripod less steady. Yes, you might be able to get it taller, but you're actually making it more so that you feel the vibrations and the shakes, and maybe you have wind that's blowing it around a little bit. I would tell you as a general rule, I prefer 3-leg extensions, or so that you can extend it twice. I really don't recommend or go any farther than 4-leg, than being able to extend it 3-leg extensions. And the reason being is because just when you get to those bottom legs, I've seen some of them that, I think a Sharpie is probably thicker than they are.
Yeah.
And they're just really wobbly.
So Cody, explain to me why if as the way tripods are manufactured, as they taper down, the way that each section has to fit up into the other section, as you get towards the bottom, right, your bottom piece is the skinniest piece. Explain to me why that can become a problem.
Well, it's basically a simple thing of physics. Is the farther you go away from the ground, your tripod and the weight of the binoculars is way up high, and you've got literally in reverse. Now you have the thinnest and the weakest part of the tripod now the longest away from the glass. So you literally have opposing forces working on each other, and it just makes the glass not as stable as if you were to keep the tripod shorter. So I guess that what should be said right now, Jay, is that in general, we don't typically teach, preach, or tell people, hey, look, you should be standing up when you're glassing. Because I would always tell people, find a place to sit down first. And if you really can't get comfortable and you need to sit on a rock, that's okay. If you need to sit on a stool, that's okay too. But, I prefer not to stand almost all the time. Now, there are certain places where, because of terrain or vegetation or things where, maybe you're in a burn where you got a bunch of deadfall and you got to look, it just depends on where you're at, that you're going to have to stand. And then you've got the guys that, medically speaking, we've got a bunch of different customers that literally, they can't sit. They got to stand. So you kind of get into a quandary there of like, okay, well, if you're going to stand, do you want a bigger, heavier tripod with thicker legs at the bottom so that it's more steady? Or do you want to go a much lighter weight tripod that, you can still stand, but you're going to sacrifice a little bit of, stability? Yeah. So, literally, Jay, that's why there's so, we never try to tell somebody they're right or wrong for what tripod or, what they're doing, but, we just try to work through with them about the scenarios that they're in and the environment and, their physical, ability or limitations. And then we try to educate them on the best way to get their glass steady. And that's why we don't ever tell people they're right, wrong, or indifferent for using one tripod versus the other. But I think, the bottom line is...
Wait a minute. You won't tell other customers that they're right, wrong, or indifferent, but you and I will roll around in the dirt about things. You'll tell me I'm wrong.
Well, a guy's got to have an opinion once in a while, right? Yeah, I'm not afraid to. I'm not afraid to tell you when I think you're wrong, right?
Yeah, let's take a quick break here on that.
Yes.
Let's take a quick.
Not a problem.
Reel game calls featuring the elk reel. Reel Game Calls makes innovative, realistic, and easy-to-master calls using their proprietary, revolutionary design. They are located and manufactured in Gypsum, Colorado. Their calls were designed and battle-tested on some of the hardest hunted terrain on Earth. Check out elkreel.com. Use the promo code JScott and receive a 20% discount on all purchases. Go to www.elkreel.com. I have known the owners of the Outdoorsmans in Phoenix for over 20 years. They are the authority on optics and hunting gear. Outdoorsmans is the leading designer and manufacturer of high-quality tripods, mounting accessories, and pack systems for all hunters. Their customer service is the best in the business. Go to outdoorsmans.com or call 1-800-291-8065 and use the J. Scott promo code to receive 10% off any products.
Okay, Cody, I want to back up to something that you said earlier, and that's talking to people about how they're going to use their optics or use their tripod. And I want you to walk me through a scenario, and I'll chime in from the peanut gallery of you walk up to a point and you're going to start glassing. Tell me what you do from the time you take your backpack off to the time you're actually now glassing and looking through your binoculars. Go through as detailed as you can what you're looking for.
Generally speaking, and Jay, I know you're the same way. I spend a lot of time looking at maps. I spend a lot of time figuring out where I want to glass from, where I don't want to be, bad angles, bad, situations. So after I've done all that and I'm getting up to an area where I'm going to glass, and by the way, when I'm doing that, that whole information gathering part of where I'm going to be, and, maybe I've been there, maybe I haven't, I'm also thinking in the back of my mind with that, okay, what tripod do I need, or what situation am I going to be in to where, do I need a different tripod today for a different, what glass am I, what am I bringing? What am I taking? And I know that's probably a little bit different for me because I'm always testing glass, and, I may have 5 or 6 pair of different something in my glass, but on a typical hunting trip, when I've got my gear and I'm doing what I'm doing for me, and it's not about testing glass, the first thing I'm doing is trying to basically, I'm searching for that spot to sit down and glass where I've got a good unobstructed view of where I'm about to be, where I'll be looking. And so I'm always looking either for a good, comfortable, low rock that I can, put my butt on and, with my glassing pad and sit down on that.
So in other words, you're looking for like a rock that's almost serving as like a chair, but it's going to be lower than a chair, but it's flat, so that you can put your glassing pad on that.
Absolutely.
And not be sitting on the ground, but not be sitting too high.
Yeah, Jay, it might be a rock. I don't know. I always kind of find a rock. It might only be 8 inches high, but I want to get just a little bit of elevation that I can sit on it and have my legs at a good angle and, not just kind of fit, flat on the ground. So, I just always kind of look for that good little spot that I can tuck into and have a good glassing platform. And I'm also looking, I'm trying not always, a lot of guys, they kind of skyline themselves and they kind of get up on top of a rock perch. And quite frankly, I'm always trying to kind of get away from the rocks. And the reason being is, we're talking about tripods. A lot of times when you're at rocks, the tripods are adjustable, but you got to move around quite a bit, to get them exactly where we want to be. And I figure the more time I'm fidgeting and screwing around with that, so I always try to get to those places that I can, where I know is a good spot where I can put the legs of the tripod, and I'm not always constantly having to knock them around or just keep constantly moving when I have to move angles, to my left or to my right. So rock piles can be good in some situations, but most of the time I actually kind of try to avoid them.
One thing I would say about rock piles is if you have, say a field of view in front of you where you can put one leg of the tripod straight out in front of you that might be extended at a longer length.
Yep.
And then have the other two legs kind of to the side. That usually plays the best in my mind.
I would agree with that.
When you're looking kind of, obviously you're looking forward, but having the leg, if I'm trying to figure out how to explain this, you have the extended leg out in front of you, and maybe the two side legs are at a shorter.
Jay, basically what you're trying to say is that the ground, the rock face or whatever you're at falls away from you at a much steeper angle. So you got to use the length of that tripod,
right,
to stabilize the front of the tripod, and then you're going to shorten up the legs left and right. But it gives you a little bit. It almost gives you a little room to pivot on that front leg.
Exactly.
So you're not moving as much, but you can move it in small increments without like having to pick the whole thing up and readjust everything time and time again. So
and the other thing I might add is I see this a lot with guys that I guide and such, and their tripod, their legs will all be at different angles, and then the actual plane of the binocular will be at a cant or unlevel. I think most importantly, whenever you set up on a tripod, you want to have the top of the tripod, the platform of the tripod, to be as parallel to the ground and as level as you possibly can, because anytime you get a situation where your tripod isn't level, the binocular tends to want to slide left or right or up or down, and a wind comes up and it's not stable, it could blow over. I mean, there's lots of things that can happen.
Well, I think, Jay, that what you're always trying to do is that trundle, okay, that the actual pivot point where the center column comes up through. And a lot of tripods like Manfrottos and Bogans and such, they'll actually have a little bubble embedded in that trundle because most of them are for photography reasons.
Right.
And if you look at that bubble will tell you if your trundle's level or not. So, and I think, just being a little bit anal, retentive, obsessive, compulsive, I'm always trying to keep that trundle level. Yeah. And the more, probably the more important reason to keep it level is then when you go to, when you go to your head, your head will plane left and right on the level. And
you're talking about your tripod head.
Well, yeah, the tripod head. Your head will plane level, and it'll make for more comfortable glassing. And I think that there's something, we don't glass with our head tilted. We don't see things in that way. You're kind of trying to look for things that are in that horizontal plane. But it's like if you're looking at a 45-degree hill, you're not going to turn your head at a 45 degrees and look at it sideways.
Right.
You want to get your eyes to where they're looking level, and I think it makes for the tripod head, to operate better and function easier. And I think guys will, they'll glass more efficiently and ultimately see more game if they do that.
Well, and I think one of the problems comes in where if, with binoculars, you can get away with your legs not being, in a good position and it not, that the head not being extremely level, but where, having that trundle, having that, your tripod head level, where that comes into play for me is when you go to your spotting scope, when you finally found a buck that you want to shoot, or that you want to look at, I guess I should say, and you go to your spotting scope. As soon as you put a heavier spotting scope up there, heavier than your binoculars, you're going to find out real quick that not having your tripod level, not having your head level, your tripod head level, that's where you're going to run into issues, because the spotting scopes are much heavier, and they'll start pivoting, because they want to be level as well.
Right. Well, and the other thing too, Jay, is that, and we're both kind of touching on the same thing, is you get to a point where there are certain tripod heads out there that they only function on a certain plane. So if you have the trundle tilted, it won't go back level. If you're not using like a pistol grid or a completely full, a fluid head, it won't matter what you won't get back to that natural plane of being level. So it just stands to reason, if you start level, you'll stay level, and it'll make for easier transitions when you're glassing.
For sure. Let's take another quick break here.
PhoneScope is a company that makes custom-molded, precisely engineered smartphone digiscoping adapters. Photographing wildlife has never been easier. It is simple to text photos and videos from your smartphone and share them with your friends. PhoneScope stands behind their product with a 100% money-back guarantee. Get yours now by using the JScott16 promo code and receive 10% discount on all purchases. Check them out at PhoneScope. That's PhoneSkope.com, or on Instagram at PhoneScope. Utah Hydrographics is in the water transfer printing service, and they can dip almost anything into a wide range of camo patterns, designs, and colors. Whether it's guns, bows, tools, rifle stocks, vehicle parts, steering wheels, cups, or tripods, Utah Hydrographics loves taking things that are general looking and turn them into something that looks fantastic. Give them a call and see what they can do for you, and receive up to a 10% discount by using the JScott16 promo code. Visit them at UtahHydrographics.com or on Instagram at Utah Hydrographics.
Okay, Cody, I want to talk specifically. I know you carry a wide variety of tripods. I'd like for you to kind of walk through some of the different tripods that you carry at the Outdoorsmans and explain to me, what the ins and outs kind of each, I don't know if it's, category of tripod or what have you, but if you could just go through some of them for me.
Sure. Well, first of all, obviously what we are best known for is the Outdoorsman's tripods. We actually have 4 sizes. We have a small, which is a very short tripod that your legs will actually go around the tripod legs as opposed to under the legs. That's meant for more of backpacking, horseback. Guys like to carry them in their saddlebags. We basically kind of made those originally for the sheep hunters and the guys that were doing, serious backpacking and horsepacking. Then we have
is that tripod mainly for guys that are hand-holding their binoculars, but then they need to get low to the ground and actually use a small tripod to put a spotting scope on?
Absolutely. It was really kind of meant and originally designed for the sheep hunter in mind. The guys that they're hand-holding the binoculars, and they're going to switch to a spotting scope, and they just needed a small, lightweight, and not overly lightweight, but still steady. A good platform for their spotting scope.
And it's roughly how tall?
You're looking, right. I think the tallest it gets is right about 20. I think it's 24 inches.
Okay.
Yeah, but in its compact size, I think it's right at 11 or 12 inches. So
that's the tripod that like you see in the old photos where a guy's got his spotting scope rested on his pack and he's on the ground, you know,
Exactly.
he's dull sheep hunting and he's got his tripod on a rock or on a pack. This is the tripod for that guy that can still carry something very, very lightweight but have a tons more stability. But if someone's dull sheep hunting where they're just looking for white dots out there, once they find that, or a mountain goat hunt, then they want to evaluate it. Then they go use this tripod instead of having to try. It's a pain in the butt to put a spotting scope and rest it on a pack or on a rock. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. Exactly. That's exactly what it's for. So then we have a compact medium, and we have a compact medium that has 2 leg extensions. It is 13 inches in its compacted form. It's 36 inches fully extended, and basically that pack, or this was our that tripod was basically created for the guy that wanted to use both his binoculars and his spotting scope, but he still was a backpacking guy, still wanted a good, slim, smaller diameter, full tripod, but still had the ability to sit underneath it and have real good control of his optics. But yet it saves us about 4 ounces off of the medium tripod, but it gets you about 6 inches shorter. You're about 6 inches difference. The medium tripod is only 1 leg extension with a longer center post that gets you to about 44 inches tall. So, but its compacted height is 5 inches larger than the compact medium. So it really, for a lot of guys that don't need that extra height, or maybe they're not sitting on a stool and they're really trying to get, the best tripod to sit underneath and have a real steady platform, and they're not concerned about sitting on a stool or sitting higher, that compact medium, the first guy, I'll never forget, the first guy that I told that was a sheep hunter from Alaska, he was a guide. His mind was, when I told him that it was 5 inches shorter than the medium, his first thought in his mind was, I can fit 2 more Mountain House, food packets in the sleeve of that pack. And
right.
So for that guy, you can't imagine how much. He was just overly excited about being able to carry other things, but he still wanted the tripod. He wasn't willing to forgo the tripod. But when I told him about that, that 5 inches less, he was like, I can fit this in there. I can do that, and right there, and it's actually it's actually our best-selling tripod right now. So, okay. And then you have the medium, and like I said, the medium's 44 inches tall. When you extend it, it's 18 inches compacted, and then that was our original tripod size. For the very longest of time, it was our most popular, and it still is the most. It's almost neck and neck with the compact medium, but the compact medium has been edging out the medium tripod as of lately. And then we have a tall tripod, and that tall tripod is you can stand behind it. We have that it's a 2 leg extension, and it will get up to I think it's right at 6 foot. But when you fully extend it, with your head and the whether you're using a spotting scope or a bino adapter, guys that are generally 6'2", 6'3" can stand up behind it and look through it pretty easily. And then just so everybody knows, we do have an option for all these tripods that we do make a custom a center post column that extends to double the length. And the nice thing about that is it does give you another added, extension of your center post column if you ever need it. And it really does it at a very minimal addition of weight. I think it adds like 2 ounces.
Okay, I do want to bring up one thing that makes me think of, and I want you to speak to it. I've seen guys where they never extend their tripod legs at all, and they make their legs as small as possible, and then they have a long center post, and they sit there in glass with their center post way up.
Well, can I stop you right there?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. It's the worst of the scenarios.
Why?
Because a tripod. I would rather keep. If you sit with me anytime glassing, and Jay, I've been with you. I can picture your glassing profile in my head right now. I would guarantee you that if you took Dar, myself, you, Cody Goff, or and any of the boys, I will guarantee you that you almost never see the center post extended. And the reason being is because the higher you extend one pole like that, one center tube, it's the weakest part of the tripod. So I
want to explain something here just so everybody's clear. What I'm saying is that I've guided people before, and I look over in their glassing, and their tripod legs, not one of them is extended, but their center post is all the way fully extended, where the opposite is I'm going to extend, when I first sit down, I'm going to extend my legs to get it to the proper position, and I'm never going to extend my post unless I absolutely have to.
Well,
and if people can kind of take that into, remember that. And then I will also add, when I'm in a sitting position, I will, if it's a two-legged extension, I will leave the bottom leg extension. That will be the last leg that I extend.
Exactly.
In my mind, if I don't know how to explain it, Cody.
No. What you're trying to do is you're trying to utilize and use the strongest part of the tripod first. You're trying to keep it as compact as possible with still remaining comfortable. But the idea is that on the center post, if you extend the column as high as it'll go, well, you've just kind of defeated why not just use a monopod?
Yeah.
I mean,
you almost have a super high center of gravity.
Your center of gravity is high, and everything is just off kilter. So lower the center post, and I would tell you flat out that if you took the 3 tripod legs and extended them to equal length and got them up to where, just kind of a below your chin, and then your head's going to take up some of that room in your bino adapter, those 3 legs extended a little bit longer than the center, as opposed to the center tube, you flat out have a stronger base. It's just it's really, it comes down to physics.
Yeah, and to reiterate my point, when I sit down, I pull the tripod leg up, but when you're sit in a sitting position, the first lever or first twist, I'm going to do, not the bottom extension, but the top extension to bring it up to where I'm at.
Exactly.
And if I can't get it up to right below my chin, at that point, then I'm going to use that lowest leg extension. But most of the time when I'm sitting, I don't use the lower leg extensions hardly at all. Yeah. Because, like Cody said before, those lowest part of the legs are where the tripod is the skinniest.
I can guarantee
I just wanted to bring that up.
You can go home right now and pull out, one of my tripods that's, 12, 15 years old, and I will guarantee you that the bottom. Now, I'm not talking about the actual foot of that leg, but if you look at the extension, the bottom extension of any of my tripods, I will guarantee you that they look cleaner and less used than any part of the tripod, because I never extend the legs when I don't have to. And when I do extend them, I always extend the thickest part first. And I would tell you, I see that. I probably see that one thing, and then the center post column. Those are my 2 biggest pet peeves.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. That's why I wanted to bring it up. Back to the tall tripod. I mean, I can stand comfortably behind your tall Outdoorsman's tripod and glass, although I'm not a big stand in glass. I'll do it at last case scenario. I'll do it if, I'm hunting sagebrush, hunting mule deer, and kind of running and gunning and carrying the tripod over my shoulder, and I'm just popping it down to scan and, keep moving and that type of thing. But that tall tripod is nice for that because it has a long center post, and you can also get the center post extension. But I'm 6'3" and can easily stand behind and glass that tall Outdoorsman's tripod.
Yes, there was actually a point in time where when we decided to produce the compact medium, we actually gave consideration to not producing the medium, because of the fact that there was such, the weights are so close, and the lengths really aren't that different, that we thought, well, maybe we could just sell everybody the tall tripod. But when it really came down to it, that's what we were really wanting to do, was the part that not to be boastful or bragging, but one of the things that sets us apart, in terms of what people are doing in tripods, giving people the option to choose and, give them the gear that's best for their situation. I think that's what kind of sets us apart. And long story short, we kept all four. Sales have been fantastic on all four. The shortest, doesn't, sell near as much with the other, but, the three tripods that we sell the most, the compact, medium, the medium, and the tall, I think it gives guys a really, really good, versatile, kind of do anything, anywhere if they need to.
Yeah, and Cody, these are talk a little bit about the manufacturing of them. They're machined aluminum tripods.
We have our stuff machined by Rim Country Manufacturing up in Payson, Arizona. They are Floyd and Marty and Mike Saba. We have been friends and partners with those guys for so long, and it has been, a really good relationship. And these guys, they come from the aerospace engineering, part of the world. And if anybody knows those guys, they don't do anything halfway. It's either two tolerance or not. And I mean, when you look at our tripods, that I think that's the one thing that we get the most compliments on is, man, the work is so clean on them, and it's always consistent, and they always work, and they're literally just good quality, pieces of gear, and they're made out of, precision. I mean, you ought to see their facility, but they just do a great job of manufacturing great stuff, and it's precision grade aluminum. I mean, it's as good as it gets.
So super high strength, and lightweight at the same time. Well, what are some of the weights of the tripod legs?
Jay, we basically don't have anything over 3 pounds. It is, and I kind of wanted to talk about the weights and our tripods. A lot of people say, well, gosh, Cody, your tripods aren't as light as this, or your tripods are, heavier. And I just want to be clear on what we're talking about when people are buying our tripods. Our tripods are built, they're built by hunters for hunters, okay? And what the call of it was is that, yeah, you could go buy a real unsturdy, $50 tripod, and yes, any tripod's better than no tripod. But what people were missing is that a lot of the tripods, when Floyd first started doing this, 20 years ago, the tripods were, you couldn't put both hands around them. They were big, and they were bulky and clunky, and they were difficult to carry. And, so, Floyd had these ideas that he wanted a tripod that literally was lightweight, slim, but not so lightweight that it was wispy and made for, a bad platform. So what I like to describe all the time is people say, well, how come yours aren't lighter or whatever? And I say, what we like to tell people is and quite simply, and it's the truth, we've taken all the weight that was unnecessary and kept, and because of the materials and everything used, we've kept the rigidity and got rid of the weight that just, didn't make sense. And we've made that in a smaller, concise package that's easier to carry. And quite frankly, those tripods have, we've done really, really well with the tripod line over the last 15 years. So I think those are the one things, they're amazingly built. They're lightweight, but they're not so lightweight that they're not a good glassing platform. And, they're not too bulky. Does that mean that our tripods, work for everybody and work for all situations? No. I think the thing that needs to be said is that, we carry Manfrotto products, which is Bogan. And, there are, they have made some really good products over the years. I've still got Bogan products that I bought, from Floyd. God, I think I bought them from Floyd, 20 years ago. I still have some of those tripods today. They tend to be a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier. They are good quality products, and they are, I would tell you that for people that are wanting to get started and maybe they don't want to spend, $500 or $600 on a good, one of our tripods that's, as good as there is in the business. We can get you started, and I don't think we have to break the bank to do that, because we want to service both ends of the spectrum. Manfrotto has a couple things that we do not. They use carbon legs, and we can talk about carbon in a minute. But I think the one thing that we carry that is a really good product from Bogan and Manfrotto is they have a bigger, heavier line of tripods. And if most people don't know this, Manfrotto comes from the video and the photography side of things. So, sometimes they've got, giant cameras and giant heavyweight, photography equipment on these big tripods. And we've just adapted these bigger, heavier tripods to use for, large spotting scopes and koas and doctors and, all these big long-range glassing platforms. And I'm not saying that you can't put some of those heavier optics on one of our tripods, but I think that there's a point of diminishing returns where you can actually put too much weight on any tripod.
For sure.
So I know that was a little long-winded there, but I kind of had to. I mean, there's I guess what I'm trying to say is that there are job-specific tripods out there, just like there's, Kenny Perry, would carry, 14 clubs in his bag, right? So yeah. I think there's different tripods for different jobs, and I generally speaking, I have two tripods. You will almost always find a compact medium with our pan head in my backpack, and you will find an 055 Manfrotto aluminum heavy with a big, heavy head on it. And I use that for the like my STX 95 spotter, and I use it for my koas.
Right.
So, and the reason is because, I want that big, heavy, platform. I want a big, heavy platform, because when you're glassing at something at 3 miles, you have to have things as calm and as quiet and as still as possible to get the best image that you can get. And I think that's
for sure. Yeah, and if you're going to be doing it for a long period of time and be looking with the koas, at long distances, having the heaviest, most stable tripod a lot of times is really key to successfully glassing long range with the big heavy glass. So I mean, there's, like you said, there's a club for every shot, and there's a tripod. There's a lot of different tripods for every different scenario. So
Well,
Cody, I think you did a great job breaking down tripods in themselves. We're going to do another episode on tripod heads and mounting accessories in another episode. But just love having you on the podcast, and you've got so much experience, and the Outdoorsmans in Phoenix does such a great job with customer service and making sure people have the right equipment for their hunts. I just want to commend you on those efforts of trying to outfit people with the best thing that for them, and walking through all the different options.
Yeah, Jay, well, first of all, I always appreciate the platform you give me to speak on, and it's and all we're trying to do, guys, is I think speaking to the audience is it's just real simple to me. We are hunters, and all we want to do is help people find game. And I think we try to reach out to people, and we don't. There are certain things that we will tell you, yes, this is what we believe in, and this is what we think you should get. And then there are other scenarios where, what we're really trying to do is educate the buyer and let that person make the best decision based on, either his financial situation or whatever he's trying to do. We want to help people get into the sport. We want to help people get into hunting. And, bottom line, we're just here to help. And I think my guys do a real good job of doing that. And we just always appreciate the fact that you'll let us get on here. And I don't know, I feel like I don't even feel like it's work. I feel like I'm just having a conversation with a buddy.
Well, it's great stuff, and I appreciate the sponsorship the Outdoorsmans gives the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. I want to remind the listeners to give Cody and his staff a call, and that phone number is 1-800-291-8065. They can also go to outdoorsmans.com and check out all of the stuff, the tripods that we were just talking about. And don't forget, the Outdoorsmans offers the J. Scott Outdoors listeners a 10% discount. So make sure to take advantage of that. Cody, thanks so much for your time. I look forward to covering tripod heads and mounting accessories, which you guys have the best tripod mounting accessories in the business. And I can't wait to break that down and explain what you guys offer to the listeners in another episode, as well as unbelievable backpacks. I know there's what is going on at the Outdoorsmans down there. I know you guys have got some great big news coming up, and maybe you can't share now, but there's some big stuff happening.
We got some, Jay, just to, obviously the excitement, and we've got our new backpack that's out, and it's, we're doing so good with them. We haven't been able to keep them in stock, but we're just getting stock back in now. We're assembling the packs, and it's this new long range pack has just been a huge success, and we can't thank our customers enough. We do have some giveaways coming up, so I kind of want to keep people. We're just putting the finishing touches on them, and I'll know more by the time that you and I break down the tripod or the heads and all the adapters and bino adapters and that part of the tripod. We will have a lot more information for you. But just I think it's a really good giveaway. I think people will be really they'll be very rewarded if they got an opportunity to win this. Period.
Awesome. Sounds great, buddy. Well, until I talk to you next time, God bless. And I know I'll talk to you before your hunt, but it's been fun preparing this summer. I know you've been preparing as well, and shooting our bows and exercising and just trying to get our mind wrapped around our tags and the hunts coming up. And it's a grind. It's it's not all fun and games. A lot of times these hunts turn into marathons and turn into it's a grind. And I think you got to prepare yourself mentally for all that is going to come our way. So I'm pumped.
It's all worth it though, 100%.
Oh buddy.
All right, buddy.
Sounds good.
Well, hey Jay, again,
Take
thank
care.
you for the platform, bud. Appreciate it.
All right, take care.